Hello, everyone, and welcome to Z Talk. Today, I got some very interesting information to share with you guys. It's basically a company that helps you guys, everybody out there in my network, with some government credits and incentives to help you find some money to pay for some projects. I mean, I think that's interesting to talk about. So I have Richard Toro. He's with Business Group Resources. He's going to talk in detail about what his company does and how they can help you. And then my colleague, Dean Morrison, he's my co-host and the gentleman that introduced me to Richard. And the whole reason why we put this show together is, again, finding ways to help my network and my clients and everyone out there, save money and get some things done in this COVID world we're living in. So, Dean, my friend, I'll hand it over to you and say a few words, and then we'll turn it over to Richard.
Hey, Henry, I thought you were going to say that one of the only reasons you do this podcast is just so that I can be a co-host from time to time, but that's not you, that's me.
That's you saying that. I didn't say that.
I appreciate it. And I actually had a great opportunity to be featured on one of your podcasts, one of your earlier podcasts where we talked all about the many benefits of offering technology project financing programs.
Yes, you did.
And for those of you that haven't had a chance to see that, they can go into your library, of course, and take a look at it. But, I wanted to bring aboard today somebody who, I met about a year or so ago. And together we've co-created the IT Budget Redefined program, which incorporates aspects of the project financing up front, and then the ability to use these research and development credits on the back end to further bolster the ability to pay for technology projects, and in the case of the R&D credits, for the organization to use however they see fit. So it's a tremendous program. So I was amazed when I learned about what Richard does, and again we were able to put the two programs together, his and mine, and create this program that's an IAMCP sponsored program that we launched about a month or so ago. But I thought your viewers would be really interested to learn a little bit more about R&D credits, and then we can talk for a little bit about how that IT Budget Redefined program works as well. So without further ado, Richard Terrell.
All right, Richard, you're on.
I got it. Okay, it's me. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and thank you very much for having me on. Okay, so let me think exactly how I want to structure this. Let me tell you, if you haven't heard of R&D credits, research and development credits, it's not surprising, except that they are something that's been around forever. Actually started in 1981, so we're going on to 40 years that this has been around. And R&D credits were initially created back under the Reagan administration for the purpose of incentivizing businesses to do the activities that the government wanted them to do. And in this case, the things that the government wanted them to do is to help their company make more money, hire more people, stay in the United States, don't go offshore, and to be able to build their entities. So it's been a program of that sort. It always has been a large company program. The big boys have always taken advantage of it. The CPA firms like Deloitte and Touche and Anderson and BDO and those guys, they've got entire floors of people who do nothing but R&D credits. So it's not an unusual thing. The IRS says that for large companies, that between 60 and 70% of all large companies already take advantage of R&D credits. However, only 5% of small to mid-sized companies take advantage of it. And it's usually because they're so busy making the widget or creating the program or the new app or whatever it is that they're working on, they really don't have time to focus on this particular aspect of the code. And IRS code is 70,000 pages long, and you cannot be a specialist in everything. As if you're in tech, as you know, you can't specialize in all of it, which is why we have so much partnering that goes on in the industry. So same situation with R&D credits. So as I said before, R&D credits typically large companies. Let me give you an example. In 2018, as we all probably remember from the headlines on it, Amazon paid zero taxes for their entire year. Amazon paid zero taxes. Yep, that's a fact. That happened, and so that's a whole different discussion. But one of the reasons why they paid zero taxes was that they had about $450 million worth of R&D credits that they were able to take. And an R&D credit is a dollar for dollar reduction, refund, or elimination of taxes, either corporate or personal taxes, if you have an LLC or a sub S or a pass-through entity. So it's out there now. They're paying about the government pays out about $12 billion a year in this area, but very little to the small to mid-sized businesses. So what we did, my company started back in 2004, and we've done about 7,000 of these things now, the recoveries for clients. But what we did was we focused on the small to mid-sized businesses. We were looking at, because that was a completely underserved marketplace. We do not do what a typical CPA does. We don't do what a tax preparer does. We don't compete with a company's tax preparer or CPA. What we do is we focus on the specific aspect of identifying and recovering R&D credits the companies probably were not even aware that they had. Most smaller CPA firms do not do R&D credits. Like I said before, you got 70,000 pages in the code, you can only do so many things. And we focus on doing nothing but this. We have our own systems, processes, software that we have developed that allows us to be able to work with small to mid-sized businesses and make it easy for them to be able to obtain the credits. We also work on a contingency basis. If we don't identify and bring in the credits, and when I'm talking about credits, I'm talking about cash in your hand. We get paid on a contingency based on the amount of cash that we bring back into the client. If all we do is discover credits that are there, and that is very potential, we have credits, but we can't get you any money back, then there is no fee for it, because we look at it and we know that working with SMBs, that there's always a cash situation. SMBs are always, my whole life we're building companies, and all the SMBs of the world are always resource constrained. You never have enough money, you never have enough time, and you never have enough staff. And we know that. So we created a structure methodology to make this work. So that's the process. I mean, that's what we do, and I can go into detail on with that. But let me tell you how I got into working so much with the tech world and with the IAMCP, which there are people out there who don't know it. IAMCP is the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. These are the Microsoft folks, the channel partners throughout the world. We work with the people in the United States. We're sponsored by what they refer to as the Americas. The way that all came about and how we got into myself working with Dean and with IT Budget Redefined was that I've been out here on the West Coast. I actually live in Huntington Beach, sitting out looking at 72-degree skies and blue skies right now. So it could be pretty much any day of the year. So we have, out here I was working with and gotten involved with IAMCP locally. And we realized that this really worked well. If you have an IT company, I can pretty much guarantee that you are doing R&D activities. The IRS looks at it as that you've got what they call QRAs, which are qualified research activities, specific things that you do. We identify those and then we connect them with the QREs, which are qualified research expenditures. That's the money that you spend, and then that creates credits. When you've got that, a percentage of that can become credits. So we realized was that, one, the IT companies, all of them, to some degree or another, we don't know how much, but almost invariably, IT companies qualify for credits of some sort. Just a matter of us figuring out how much is there and whether it's worth everybody's while to go get them. But in addition to that, what we realized was that almost everything that an IT company does for their clients qualifies as an R&D activity for their client. that was a big revelation to me when I realized that, because what it allowed us to do was to work with IT partners, with the tech IT companies, and they would bring us in with their client. And instead of having a $50,000 or $100,000 cost for their program, that they would just put out there and say, here's what it's going to cost, Mr. Client. You figure out how to do that. They were able to now bring us in and say, you know what? But because of what we do, there's very probably going to be some credits that we can get from the government for these programs, non-refundable. You don't have to pay them back. Let's see whether we can do that. So all of a sudden, we became able to handle that situation and assist the tech companies in their marketing and in actually their sale. I'm going to carry that a little bit into what we worked with Dean. Dean and I then met. Dean's been involved with IMCP, with the Microsoft partners over on the East Coast. We ended up meeting, talking about what he did, and the very specific process that they've got for funding IT projects. And as you said before, you guys have done a podcast on this. But what we saw was that this was a marriage made in heaven. What we could be able to do is to working with an IT tech company partner, we would be able to offer them the ability to walk into their client and create an easy monthly payments funded through Dimension Funding, and then follow that with identification and refunding of credits, which brings in literally tens of thousands of dollars for the client, that they can do anything they want with. But of course, if you've been the tech company that helped them find $100,000, you're one of their favorite people, and you certainly can help.
We hope so.
Right? And when I use that number, I don't use it frivolously. Let me give you an idea of the range of these things. We're not talking about $1,000 or $2,000. As a matter of fact, if you're down in those kind of levels, it's really not worth anybody's while to go through the effort. Our average recovery last year was about $118,000 per client. One of the unique things about R&D is that you can go backwards for 3 years. So we identify what they've been doing. We go backwards for 3 years and actually recover what really are overpaid taxes. So what ends up happening at the end of the day is that when we've done that and we filed with the IRS on the client's behalf, they receive a check back in the mail, and it just looks exactly like a refund check like you get on your taxes, because that's what it is, a refund check that you get on your taxes. And in addition to that, the IRS will pay you 6%. So depending on where you invest, that may be the best investment you've made in the last 3 years. So what we're able to do is to find these dollars. So again, back to giving you an idea of the scope and the size. Our average is about $118,000 across the board. A small recovery for us would be $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 of recovery. And the largest that I did last year was $605,000 for a client, engineering client that was actually brought in by a tech company, because the client needed more money to do more technology that they had, and we went in there and we actually found them over $600,000, which they still like us a lot. And the unique, when I talk about going backwards for 3 years, that's where some big dollars come in. But this is an every year thing, because typically companies do R&D activities every year. If you do it in the past, you're going to do it in the future. Mm-hmm. So what we end up doing is continuing to work with the client forever. We can do it either on a year by year basis if it's large enough, or we might wait a couple, 3 years and then go backwards and pick up those other credits, depending upon the size of the company and the particular wishes. So that's what we do. That's how we do it. The type of clientele that we have, companies that qualify for this, is really, really broad. Whenever anybody wants information, I send them out an email, and the subject on the email is more than you ever wanted to know about R&D credits. But in there, you've got some articles by Wall Street Journal, by the Forbes magazine, that basically, and there's a 2-minute audio by Senator Grassley, if you remember, the 85-year-old cantankerous senator that was involved on TV with all of the hearings. And he is chastising a small business convention business owners and their accountants, their CPAs, chastising them that they're not taking advantage of these credits and incentives that exist out there. So, you know, the money's there. They want to be able to give it out because they want to encourage the kind of activities you're doing. Because if you're in the IT tech world, what your whole job is to make your clients more efficient, faster, quicker, more be able to be more productive, and that's exactly what these credits are for. So that's how we work. And then, you know, I started talking a little bit about how we tied together with Dean on that. So I went an overview, but that's where I have that's an overview without getting you too far down into the weeds on this thing. That's the overview on the R&D credits. Henry,
That's amazing.
questions?
You know, from my perspective, obviously, I've been in IT for 30 plus years. I've known Dean for probably most of that, right? 25 plus, 26 and counting. And I see a great value in this. I mean, how many times, I can't even count how many times I've talked to my clients, and you know, they talk about their budget. Oh, I can't do it in Q3. I have to wait to Q1. Oh, I gotta wait for this to get approved. So there's always some kind of money concern, always. And sometimes they'll look at financing, and then, you know, Dean comes in and does his magic. But, you know, how often does somebody say, hey, I can find you, or I have a company, a person I know that can work with you and help you find some additional dollars to help fund the project. I mean, if it's a large project and what you find for them, Richard, you know, might be, let's say, $50,000, and we're going to finance, you know, 100K in equipment. Well, put the 50 down, and we can bring even the financing number down. So I mean, I really see a win-win-win scenario, and I hope that my audience is really listening to this and paying attention to it, because, you know, I am going to reach out to all of you. So don't think I'm just going to put the video out there and just sit down. This is too important. I mean, this is real stuff, and it's real money, and you're leaving it on the table. You know, why do that? You know, let Richard and Dean as well, you know, help you and come up with some creative ways to find, you know, additional dollars for you, and then help you finance the equipment, and, you know, and create these win-win scenarios, and help, you know, and help you get your projects, you know, off the ground. So I just see, from my perspective, it's just a win-win everywhere.
Right, Henry. And as Richard mentioned, you know, not only is it appropriate for, you know, for companies, for technology companies, but, you know, those who are technology companies selling their products and services, again, you know, whether that's subscription based or licenses, you know, at the end of the day, you know, being able to get money up front for multiple years of a solution, you know, creates a better or more robust, more profitable transaction, and it also locks in customers, you know, for a longer time. So it makes a lot of sense. And then, you know, for what Richard can help their clients accomplish, so then they become a knowledge resource, you know, for their clients, which is yet another reason that keeps a customer relationship intact. And, you know, nowadays that's all important, extremely important, to be able to, you know, approach your clients and talk to them about solutions that may not necessarily be your own, but, you know, that might be able to help them out and indirectly help you out.
That's right. And it's all about bringing value. And that's why I'm glad you brought this to my attention, Dean. And thank you, Richard, for, you know, explaining how the process works. And, you know, I don't see a way that, you know, customers can lose. I mean, you know, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, okay, we found nothing. Well, then you owe nothing.
That's right.
So what do you have to lose? But think about, what do you have to gain? And I know many companies that are, I'm talking to a few today that, you know, budgets are tight. Obviously, you know, 2020 has been a very interesting, maybe fatiguing year, in some ways, but it's almost over. But but still, we don't know what 2021 brings.
Yeah.
So, let's keep our positive minds for next year. But for now and to next year, for the years to come, I can see, what Richard brings to the table is something of value. I mean,
Richard, let me ask you a question that just occurred to me. We haven't even discussed this. Is there any change expected with the transition from one president to another? Has that any impact on what you're doing with the R&D tax credits?
Excellent question. Let me give a little of the political history, if you will, and honestly, I won't go on for long. As I said before, R&D credits started in 1981. At that point, what they were, and for every year thereafter until 2015, R&D credits were approved by every new Congress every year. Okay, it was a credit, an incentive that they were putting out there. So Congress had to made that as a positive action to do that. So through Reagan to Clinton to Bush into Obama, it was every Congress approved it again until 2015. In 2015, under the PATH Act, P as in Paul, ATH, the PATH Act, which was a tax act under the Obama administration, R&D credits became permanent. So they no longer have to be approved by Congress every year. So they became permanent, and at that point they were expanded. So it hasn't really mattered whether we're under a Reagan or a Clinton or a Bush or an Obama, whether it's conservative or been liberal. Everybody wants the same thing in that particular area. Everybody wants businesses to be successful and stay in the United States. Okay, that's one of the real reasons for doing this. Many different states actually have R&D credits, and here in California, where I live, as you know, the state of California taxes maybe more than the IRS does, but the state of California has an R&D a program parallel to the feds, and they will as such we end up recovering from them. In Florida, you guys don't have that kind of corporate tax, so that no, without the taxes, there's nothing to gain, so that doesn't exist in Florida. But many other states it does, a lot of states it doesn't. But it's a national program. Back to your specific point, Dean, we do not see any reason why it will change. In the 2000s, there have been a lot of changes that have been made in it, almost all to the purpose of expanding the usage of it. That is in the 2000s. There was a big thing in 2001, which changed a bit. That's why when we started in 2004, this was really good for the corporate, for the SMBs, small mid-sized businesses. It really allowed it. And in 2014, the IRS lost a large lawsuit, which expanded again the methodologies that we were able to do. So all of the things that have happened over the years have done nothing except solidify it. Nobody can ever say what the IRS is going to do, and nobody can ever say what the Congress is going to do. But at this point, the biggest argument, the discussion that we have heard relative to these is, can we expand R&D credits to help people through this whole COVID crisis?
Wow.
So they were actually looking at R&D credits. Maybe we actually give you more on this one in order to encourage that kind of an activity.
Wow.
So all of you IT folk out there are really sitting in a catbird seat as it relates to this particular kind of a program, because that's what you do. Okay, it's not a matter of whether you do R&D within your own firm and whether you do R&D for your client. It's really a matter of how much is it. How much can we find? How much can we, because we do things straight by the book. We've got a superior record in terms of working with all of this, so we don't put anybody at risk for anything. But you guys are in an unusually good position for being able to utilize this and offering it to your clients because of what you do.
Thanks, Richard.
That sounds good. So I think that may end this segment. I know if anything changes in the future, Richard, let's do an update to this to kind of keep that going. But you know, for now, we're gonna call it a wrap. Thank you, Dean, for bringing Richard to my attention.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having us on.
And again, I encourage my my followers, my audience out there, you know, reach out to me and let me help you guys, you know, find some additional dollars to fund those projects. And then through Dean's help, we'll find ways to get them financed. So again, just, you know, helping others and helping each other. So I'm Henry Zaldivar with IT Savvy, and also this is my Z-Talk platform. So thank you all for listening. And again, thank you again, Richard and Dean, and God bless you both. And we'll talk again very soon.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.